This video clip has been brought to you by IT in Canada, Canada's only integrated social media news network. Find us on the web at www.itincanada.ca.
Hello and welcome to IT in Canada. I'm Michael O'Neill, and today I have the privilege of being joined by Paul Cooper,
Morning,
Country
Michael.
Manager, Dell Canada. Morning, Paul. Thank you for joining us.
No problem.
Paul, you've been in the Canadian IT industry through several cycles of growth and contraction, and in 2011 we appear to be in an expansion cycle following a fairly sharp contraction. Are you seeing anything this time that's changing the usual pattern of let's resume our refresh cycles and start picking up on new projects that we've seen in the past?
Yeah, you know, it is actually different this time, and I think the reason for that is the industry in general is kind of at an inflection point. So there's some pretty substantial changes that are happening in terms of the way that ICT can be leveraged to drive innovation within organizations. And so that coupled with the recovery has led to different opportunities than might have existed. We're also seeing customers probably work harder than they ever have to ensure that they get value for money. So while we have a recovery, as is well documented, it's not perhaps the strongest that we've ever seen. And I think people have a newfound realization that they always need to get value where they can. But within that, they absolutely are leveraging ICT to drive innovation, to create efficiencies within their organization, and ultimately to create kind of competitive advantage for their organization so that they can succeed in the future. A couple of things that of note there. I mean, for our customers, it's really about efficiency and effectiveness, about them kind of shifting their spend so that they can free up operating expenses and capital expenses for innovation, and do so in the most efficient manner possible.
Have you seen a change in any of the metrics that your customers use to try to evaluate value for money, either in terms of business metrics or IT metrics that they apply to these purchases?
Yes, I'd say, Michael, the change has been expectations around return on investment. So just the timelines and the diligence that customers go through. I suppose budgets are not available enough to have people just go on a bit of a flyer. They really are having to look at what they're doing, make sure that it's aligned with their overall strategic objectives. It's going to enable a capability for their customers, and then they will move forward when they see an appropriate business case. So that puts some focus and some responsibility back to the vendor community to make sure that we're providing that for them.
So does that increased emphasis on ROI imply that there's more focus on receiving or delivering, depending on whether you're a buyer or a seller, business value rather than IT value from the acquisition?
You've hit it right on the head. The solutions that we are providing to customers have to address a business challenge, issue, or opportunity. And so you need to understand that intimately. You need to understand it from the customer's perspective, and then you need to translate that into a business case that will validate the investment that they're about to make. And then you have to be prepared post-implementation to prove that it actually worked in the way that the customer is expecting.
That proof of performance post-implementation is a trend that I think we've seen building through time. Is it especially acute now in our current cycle?
Yeah, and I think it comes back to where we started, right? The customers are demanding and requiring value for money, and that doesn't only mean in terms of a business case or a proposal that I can put in front of them, but ultimately in the way that that actually manifests within their environment. So they're being very diligent about ensuring that they get that sustained value over the lifespan of the solution, if you will.
It's an interesting point. It's to kind of amplify on that, in the recent forecast issue of IT in Canada, and in the research that we conducted to support that issue, we found that IT managers have two discrete requirements. One is to manage the cost and throughput of their business as usual technology, and the other is to tap into some of the technologies that offer the promise of enhanced IT delivery and start to unlock the innovation side of the equation that you were referring to earlier. Now, given the breadth of Dell's presence in the market, I'd like to ask you about both issues, starting with the business as usual spending that consumes the vast majority in real life of IT budgets. What are you seeing customers do to upgrade their core delivery capability while simultaneously conserving budgets for new projects?
Well, let me first start by validating your research, because we see exactly the same thing with our customers, and we've done research as well. And basically what we hear and the way we describe it or communicate it back to our customers is they tell us that they are spending about 80+% of their IT budgets in total to keep the lights on or run the business as usual, as you describe it. If they're fortunate, they're spending the other 15 to 20% on innovation, right? Changing the way they do business, enabling strategies that they need to execute within their organization. The challenge is, if you look at the benchmarks in the industry for companies that are very progressive in their leverage of ICT and are in many cases succeeding at kind of accelerated rates in terms of performance, what you see is that their spend is dramatically different. It's probably more in the range of 50-50.
Really?
So for our customers, that's an opportunity, right? So coming back to what are they doing about it, we see kind of some broad themes. The first is standardization. Ensuring that you haven't allowed for a proliferation of various devices, operating systems, and applications. And so that really hits at every layer of ICT, but standardization has proven time and time again to bring efficiencies in terms of cost and effectiveness. And so that's a big part of it. The second piece is really capitalizing on technology that is available, and specifically in the area of virtualization. And I won't get into the details of virtualization, but it is applicable to both servers, storage, and now client technologies. And when applied appropriately, can yield significant savings in context with standardization. As they go through that virtualization cycle, they often find an opportunity to now consolidate. So they can take physical premise, real estate that they have and the like, and as a result of a reduction in the number of servers they're using and higher utilization rates and the like, they end up with less infrastructure, both physical servers and storage as well as real estate. And so they consolidate across their organization. And then the final step we see them taking is driving to a greater state of automation. So there are system management tools available today that were literally designed in the virtual era, as we would call it. And so they were designed for the environment in which we find ourselves today. And when we see customers kind of move down that path, and it is a journey, right? You don't kind of just move one day to the end state. As they embark on that journey, as they move through that journey, the outcome is often that they have shifted dramatically their spend, or at least the possibility. So they've gone from 80-20 all the way down to kind of this 50-50 scenario. And so what they typically then do is they will take those budgets, which are relatively set, and they will use those dollars that are freed up to find areas in which they can innovate. And they're innovating in areas of service delivery. They're innovating in terms of how they access their customers, how they support their customers. But again, in all cases, really trying to innovate in a way that allows them to ultimately create competitive advantage for them in whatever endeavor they happen to be involved in.
Great. So just to recap then, standardize, virtualize, consolidate, which allows you to reduce real estate and power and cooling infrastructure in addition to your compute infrastructure.
And drive up
then
utilization and automate ultimately, yes.
That's a great prescription.